At exactly 7:30, the Persian Gulf was on the verge of a moment that would change everything. Within just 5 minutes, 12 Iranian fighter jets took off from 3 separate air bases in southern Iran. At the same time, 15 fast attack boats launched from 3 coastal sites along Iran's shoreline. Both groups were moving toward a single objective, the USS Abraham Lincoln, one of the clearest symbols of American naval power. And Iran had spent months preparing for this operation. This was not a rushed decision. Iranian commanders had analyzed American carrier tactics for years. They believed they had found a critical weakness. If enough threats arrived from multiple directions at the exact same time, even the most advanced defense system could be pushed to its limits. Air and sea, high altitude and sea level, missiles and heavy weapons, everything converging in one coordinated wave. On paper, the plan looked precise, powerful, and potentially unforgettable. The forces were 65 nautical miles northeast of Bahrain, in waters Iran viewed as part of its immediate sphere. The operation had been practiced. The crews were prepared. The commanders were certain. What they did not realize was that the outcome was already beginning to turn against them. The 12 jets formed up at 25,000 feet. Together, they carried 20 precision anti-ship missiles, programmed to approach the carrier from different heights and angles at the same moment. In military terms, the tactic was known as a saturation attack, designed to flood the defense with more incoming threats than it could handle at once. Below them, 15 lightweight fiberglass boats, painted in blue-gray camouflage, cut across the water at 40 knots. Each carried crews of 8 to 10 men, along with rocket launchers, heavy machine guns, and grenades. The commanders of those boats understood the danger. Their orders were direct. Continue the approach no matter the losses, get within 2 miles of the carrier, and open fire. The goal was to prove that American carriers were not untouchable, that Iran could reach them, and that these waters could not be treated lightly. But the entire mission depended on one key factor: surprise. And by then, surprise was already gone. At 7:50, radar operators aboard the Abraham Lincoln picked up the full picture almost instantly. 12 incoming aircraft, 180 miles to the northwest at 25,000 feet, heading straight in. 15 fast-moving surface contacts, 45 miles to the northeast, racing out of Iranian coastal waters. In seconds, the tactical display revealed the whole situation. Automated data links sent the same real-time picture to every ship and aircraft in the carrier strike group at once. There was no pause, no uncertainty, no moment of confusion among American commanders. They understood the situation immediately. In fact, they had been preparing for something like this for days. Intelligence reports had already highlighted unusual activity at Iranian air bases and coastal patrol sites during the previous 72 hours. Aircraft had been repositioned. Boat crews had carried out unusual drills before dawn. Fuel loads suggested missions beyond routine patrol patterns. The carrier strike group commander had already briefed his team the night before on possible provocation scenarios. What caught his attention was not that something was happening, but how coordinated it was. An air and surface move launched together showed a level of planning Iran had not displayed before. He recognized it, noted it, and gave the order without hesitation. Engage all threats at maximum range. Aircraft first. Stop every Iranian vehicle before it can fire a single shot. 8 Super Hornets already on combat air patrol received the command and immediately climbed hard to 35,000 feet. Afterburners blazing as they accelerated toward the incoming formation at closing speeds above 500 miles per hour. Each pilot switched on targeting radar. Through a shared network data system, every aircraft was assigned specific targets as part of one synchronized response. These were not 8 separate pilots making 8 separate choices. They were functioning as one connected combat system, with 8 fighters acting as its striking edge. At 50 miles from the Iranian formation, the lead American pilot got clearance to engage. He locked onto 2 Iranian jets and launched 2 long-range missiles. The weapons dropped away from his aircraft and, in an instant, surged forward at nearly 4 times the speed of sound. Seconds later, the rest of the American pilots followed. 12 missiles were already racing toward the Iranian formation before a single Iranian pilot had managed to fire. The Iranian pilots saw the launches on their warning systems, and the formation immediately fell into chaos. The lead pilot ordered defensive countermeasures, chaff deployment, and evasive maneuvers. The jets split in different directions, releasing clouds of metallic strips meant to confuse radar-guided weapons. But it made no difference. The first missile detonated close enough to rip through an Iranian jet with a storm of fragments, moving at devastating speed. Its hydraulic systems failed, fuel tanks were torn open, and the aircraft lost control. The pilot managed to eject only moments before the jet dropped into an unrecoverable spin. Another aircraft was hit near the cockpit and broke apart almost instantly in the air. Within a half a minute, 4 more jets were eliminated in rapid succession. One lost its left engine in a direct strike, and the blast tore through the wing root, sending the aircraft rolling upside down with no chance to recover. Another was hit by 2 missiles nearly at the same moment and came apart in mid-air. The pilot escaped from the forward section, but his weapons officer never made it out. 6 Iranian jets were down, and not one anti-ship missile had been launched. The remaining pilots scattered. The strike aircraft, heavy and not built for dogfighting, dropped low and pushed their engines to the limit. They had been designed for attack runs, not aerial survival. American missiles stayed with them through every desperate move and struck both aircraft just seconds apart. Neither crew survived. 3 Iranian fighters then tried to escape at extremely low altitude, barely 100 feet above the water, skimming the wave tops as closely as skill and physics would allow. It was bold, flying, and highly dangerous, the kind of move that can sometimes exploit radar clutter near the ocean surface. But this time, it still was not enough. 2 of the jets were tracked through the interference and hit with precision. One pilot managed to eject just before impact. The other did not. The third pilot at low level was different. He avoided 2 separate missile attacks with aggressive maneuvering and perfectly timed countermeasures. He was clearly one of the most capable pilots Iran had sent that morning. For a few brief moments, it looked like he might actually make it back toward Iranian airspace. Then, an American fighter closed to within 10 miles and launched a heat-seeking missile. This weapon did not care about chaff. It locked onto engine heat and stayed with it. The strike came from behind and destroyed both engines in a single blast. With no thrust left and no options remaining, the pilot ejected into the Persian Gulf. The final Iranian jet lasted the longest. It survived 3 separate missile attacks through pure skill, sharp brakes, rapid altitude changes, and perfectly timed defensive moves. The pilot was exceptional. But when 2 American fighters moved to block his escape, one of the American pilots decided to finish it at close range. No more missiles. He closed to 3,000 feet and opened fire with his 20-millimeter cannon. The burst lasted only a moment, but it was enough. Around 50 rounds struck the tail section of the Iranian jet. Explosive shells tore through the aircraft and the tail separated from the fuselage. The jet spun violently out of control. The pilot tried to eject, but the rotation was too severe for a safe escape. By 8:10, all 12 Iranian jets were gone. Their 20 anti-ship missiles were still attached to shattered wreckage sinking into the Persian Gulf. The air attack was over in 40 minutes. Not a single weapon had reached the carrier. And below, on the water, the surface battle had already begun. The 15 fast attack boats kept moving forward during the entire air battle. Their crews had no clear picture of what had happened in the sky above them. Radio communication was scattered and incomplete. And even if they had known the outcome, their orders left no room for hesitation. Continue the mission regardless of losses. So they kept going. When the boats closed to 15 miles from the carrier group, American warships opened fire with 76-millimeter rapid-fire cannons capable of firing about 120 rounds per minute. Computer targeting systems tracked the fast boats in real time, calculating lead angles against vessels racing across the water at 40 knots in moderate seas. The first barrage landed around the Iranian formation, massive columns of water erupting across the surface. The gunners corrected their aim immediately. The next volley struck. 3 shells hit the lead boat almost at the same moment. The fiberglass hull shattered in a violent blast. Fuel ignited, and a huge fireball swallowed the entire vessel along with everyone aboard. The wreckage burned briefly as it drifted forward, then slipped beneath the waves. 2 helicopters lifted off from the carrier deck and headed straight toward the approaching boats, flying low over the water. Their door gunners were ready, rocket pods armed. The pilots stayed close to the surface to remain outside the range of small arms until the moment of attack. They came in from above, an angle the low, flat boats had no way to defend against. One helicopter fired 4 rockets into a tight group of 3 boats running close together. Even the near misses sent powerful shockwaves through the water, cracking hulls and throwing crew members overboard. One boat took a direct strike and went down within seconds. The helicopter's door gunner then engaged the survivors in the water, following the operational rules that treated crews from attacking vessels as ongoing threats. Despite everything happening around them, the remaining boats kept advancing. Whether it was determination or simply the understanding that turning back was not an option, they pushed forward. 6 boats were still operational at 8 miles. Machine guns from the escorting warships swept the water continuously. One boat was struck by 5 shells in rapid succession and disappeared in a violent blast, leaving only scattered fragments behind. At 5 miles, the carrier's own close-in defense systems joined the fight. These weapons fired thousands of 20mm rounds every minute. Streams of tracer fire cut across the sky like glowing lines connecting ships to their targets. Fire control systems assigned specific weapons to specific boats. Every remaining vessel was targeted at the same time. The distribution of fire was precise and complete. No boat was ignored. None slipped through. Between 5 miles and 2 miles from the carrier, 4 more boats were destroyed. Burning debris drifted across the water, marking the outer edge of the defensive zone like warning markers placed by the sea itself. 3 boats remained. They reached 1 mile from the carrier, closer than any Iranian vessel would get that day. Multiple weapon systems from the carrier and nearby ships locked onto them simultaneously. Within 10 seconds, all 3 boats were destroyed almost at the same moment. The volume of fire was so intense the vessels didn't simply sink, they broke apart under the impact. When it was over, only floating debris and spreading fuel slicks remained where 15 boats had once been racing toward their target. The entire surface battle had lasted just 12 minutes from the first cannon shot to the destruction of the final boat. 15 Iranian fast attack boats had entered the fight. 15 were lost. Not one weapon was fired at the carrier. Not a single crew reached their intended attack range. The numbers alone reveal how complete the outcome was that morning in the Persian Gulf. Iran committed 12 fighter jets, 15 fast attack boats, 20 anti-ship missiles, and roughly 168 personnel to the operation. By the end of it, every aircraft was gone, every boat was gone, and every missile had been stopped before launch. 8 pilots were pulled from the water and later returned through diplomatic channels. The others never made it back. In southern Iran, many families would not hear the official news until days later. When it came, the message would likely speak of duty, coordination, and sacrifice. But it would not answer the one question that mattered most: why the carrier kept operating as if nothing had happened. The USS Abraham Lincoln suffered no damage. No crew members were injured, no aircraft were even lightly affected. Within 30 minutes of the final exchange, the entire carrier strike group had returned to normal operations. Flights continued, crew rotations continued. The Gulf remained exactly where it was, but the message Iran hoped to send had already collapsed. For months, Iran had prepared what it believed would be a decisive show of strength. A carefully timed operation meant to prove a larger point. The idea was clear. A coordinated strike from multiple directions could push American defenses past their limit. It was meant to show Washington and every U.S. naval commander in the region that the Persian Gulf was not a place where American power could move without fear. But there was one reality built into the American response that planning, courage, and determination could not overcome. The carrier group was protected by a layered, integrated defensive network built specifically for a scenario like this. Multiple attack directions, simultaneous threats, electronic countermeasures, fast-moving surface targets, missile pressure from the air, none of it was unexpected. The system had been designed for exactly that kind of battlefield, and when the moment came, it responded the way it had been built to respond. Fast, connected, and with overwhelming precision. Iran launched everything it had prepared for that morning. The problem was that the defense waiting for it had already been built with that exact kind of attack in mind.